Hello everyone, this is DDarko 2012 and I'm reading an article by Reuters titled Audit Would Hurt Economic Prospects, Bernanke. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke said on Friday congressional proposals to audit the Fed and strip it of its regulatory powers as part of a post-crisis reforms could damage prospects for economic and financial health in the future. Right. These measures are very much out of step with the global consensus on the appropriate role of central banks, and they would seriously impair the prospects for economic and financial stability in the United States, Bernanke wrote in a column posted on the Washington Post's website. The rare newspaper column by a Fed chairman comes shortly before Bernanke testifies before a Senate panel on his renomination to serve a second four-year term at the helm of the central bank and answers a series of questions. Lawmakers are angry with the Fed over its emergency bailouts of financial firms and its failure to prevent the contagion of mortgage delinquencies that crashed the financial system. A proposal to audit the Fed's monetary policy deliberations won a committee vote recently over the objections of House Financial Services Committee Chairman Barney Frank. Frank's Senate counterpart, Banking Committee Chairman Christopher Dodd, is himself the author of a proposal to consign the Fed solely to making decisions about setting bench interest rates. Bernanke, in his column, concealed the Fed had missed some of the riskiest behavior in the lead-up to the crisis, but he said the Fed had helped avoid an even more damaging economic meltdown and has stepped up its policing of the financial system. The Fed played a major part in arresting the crisis, and we should be seeking to preserve, not degrade, the institution's ability to foster financial stability and to promote economic recovery without inflation, he said. I know most of you are probably reeling in your skin right now knowing that it was the exact private banks that created this entire financial crisis, so it's kind of funny that they come in with their little solution. Bernanke acknowledged that lawmakers are responding to public anger over the government's response to turmoil. And, that's crazy. I mean, what are they doing? What are lawmakers listening to their constituents for? God, man, something wrong here. The Federal Reserve, like other regulators around the world, did not do all that it could do to constrain excessive risk-taking in the financial sector in the period leading up to the crisis, he said. However, the central bank has moved aggressively to fix the problems, Bernanke said. The Fed's knowledge of the complex financial institution is invaluable in supervising them, he said. The Fed's ability to slash interest rates to combat a recession without fueling inflation depends on its political independence, he said. Allowing audits of its monetary policy, as proposed legislation would do, would increase the perceived influence of Congress on interest rate decisions, he said, which if anyone who saw the video of Congressman Ron Paul, who is the one that's responsible for getting this bill passed to audit the Fed, where he had Ben Bernanke, the Fed chairman, basically sweating bullets when he asked him a very simple question because Ben Bernanke said that, when he said that, Ron Paul basically said, how is, just looking at the books, they are considered federal, even though we all know they're private. They're still attached to the government. They still have to somewhat answer to us, right? But they've never been held accountable. Nobody's ever looked at any of their records of what they're doing. They don't have to answer to anybody, as the former Fed chairman or Greenspan said. He said that they're accountable to nobody. They're an independent agency, and so they use this little. They use the private security kind of. They pull that card. He pulls that card whenever he's in deep trouble, and that's what he does. And it has, it really, interest rates, but it really doesn't have too much to do with that. It has to do with accountability, which there's been none of for this private cartel that's existed since 1913 when it was established in the middle of the night on a holiday weekend, just like they do everything else. Criminals. So let's just finish this story. That in turn would, quote, undermine the confidence the public and the markets have in the Fed to act in long-term economic interests of the nation, Bernanke wrote. Frank has said that the audit provision is likely to be revisited as legislation winds through both houses of Congress. Dada said his proposal is a starting point for debate. So this is real good news for those fighting the New World Order and the international fascists, as I like to call them. So again, thanks for watching this screencast with my commentary. This is the first time doing this with my voice, so if it's really annoying or if there's anything that you think I can improve on here, just let me know. Give it a rating if you could. I appreciate that, and thanks.